What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Rolex. And it's right what I'm saying in the title. This is the year that you should buy a Rolex. You must buy a Rolex this year. And listen, this video is not for everybody. This video is for the people that really were debating if they should buy a Rolex or not, because you know it's expensive, so not everybody can afford it. So this video is either for the people that have a lot of money or for the people that don't have a lot of money but they've always wanted to buy a Rolex, and they're probably thinking maybe they can pull a few strings and they can probably buy that watch. This is a video probably for those people. So with that being said, let's get into today's episode. So when you're buying a Rolex, there's multiple reasons why would somebody buy a Rolex. So first, that can be you're celebrating a milestone. You love the quality, you love the brand. The brand is phenomenal, and the marketing that they've done throughout the years and to where they are now. I mean, even people that are not into watches know about Rolex. People that don't know watches, they always ask, what's the most expensive watch? It's probably a Rolex, right? I know Rolex. Everybody knows Rolex. So with that being said, they've done something good to be where they are now. The other reason is probably the status. You love what the watch does to you, you love how it makes you feel, you know what people think about you when they see the Rolex on your wrist. Again, there's multiple reasons why somebody would buy a Rolex, and whether some of them are good or not, it's totally up to you why you would buy it. But if you are debating if you should buy one because they're so expensive and because they're so in demand and because they're so hard to get, I'm here to tell you that you must buy it this year. And that is mainly because of one reason, and that is the value. See, the other reasons you already know. The reason that you want to buy a Rolex, you already know it. You love all of those things about it. You know everything. You even know about the value. But the value is what should make you want to buy it this year. Now, Rolex is in a huge bubble right now, and people are debating, you know, its faith for the next years if it will burst. And I'm here to tell you that it will not burst. I don't think it will, and I think the way they are on the rise right now, they will always be like that. I just don't imagine it ever happening where Rolex is kind of falling off, where they start not having such a demand, where their supply is getting better, or like there's a decrease in prices. There's none of that gonna happen. I just don't think so. Now, so this has been happening for the past at least 5 years or so, where the Rolex is like going absolutely nuts when it comes to their prices, where there's just the Rolex boutiques are absolutely empty. There's like long waiting lists, and it's just insane. So if you have somebody that works at Rolex, if you have somebody that works at a retailer that have Rolex boutique, if there's any ways that you can get earlier on that waiting list, or if there's any ways that you can get on a shorter waiting list for a Oyster Perpetual or maybe a Rolex Explorer or whatever, you should do it. So hear me out. If 5-7 years ago you could buy retail, go in a store and buy a Rolex Daytona for $12,000-$13,000, you can't do that anymore, and we all know that. Now you'd be lucky to pick up one for around $25,000 on the secondary market. And if you are debating if you should buy a Rolex, I know that you should. Listen, things are very crazy, especially in the last 2 years with investing. Everybody's into investing, everybody's into crypto, everybody's into buying things cheap and selling way more expensive, or keeping because they keep its value. It's the new luxury. Everybody does it, everybody loves it, and everybody thinks it's cool. And indeed, it's much better than blowing their money on stupid crap. This is much better. Investing is a good thing. And I'm not saying that buying a Rolex is the best investment ever, because you could probably take those $15,000 and not double or triple, but make 10 times the amount that you could possibly make. I don't know what the best investment thing right now is. But if you're into watches, if you have been thinking about a Rolex and you didn't have the courage to pull the trigger because, you know, it's probably too expensive or for whatever other reasons, I am here to encourage you and to tell you that that's a good thing to do. the watches, most of the Rolexes right now, you buy them and their value is increased to double the next day, or as soon as you leave the dealer. With that being said, if you don't do it this year, well, guess what? Next year is going to be even harder to get, and they'll be even more expensive. And as the years pass, you'll be pretty mad at yourself that, damn, I should have probably bought it like 3 years ago when I could probably afford it back then a little easier and a little better than right now. So with that being said, we know how expensive they are, but as you let the time pass, this is the whole thing, because everybody thinks that maybe this whole bubble of Rolex being in such demand, such little supply, long waiting lists, favors, and things like that, you think that it will burst, you think that one day it just will stop, and it will not. I am not a future predictor, but if I was to predict, and if I was to tell you what I think of the future in terms of watch industry and in terms of Rolex as a brand, they will not fall off. This is not the end of them. There will not be an end of them. These guys are going up. These guys are absolutely incredible, insane. Whether I agree with that, whether I think it's a good thing of what happens or not, things just happen. And if you were thinking to buy a Rolex, then you should buy a Rolex. You should buy it now, so you can spend your money now and not later, because it makes no sense. It will just be so much more expensive and so much harder to get. And this is the year that you should finally pull the trigger and get the damn Rolex that you've always wanted. This is the year that if you can pull some strings, I'm not saying go into debt, I'm not saying go finance the watch or whatever. You do you, you know better. But I know that there's a lot of people that might have the money, or be very close to having the money for one, and or might not necessarily have the money, but they have the connections, because sometimes you might have the money but you just can't get it. Like, it's not available. The stores are empty now. There's no product, so you can have all the money, but if you don't have connections, you're just not gonna get the Rolex. So if you have some opportunity to get your hands on one, I think you should do it. I think it's super important that this year you bring a Rolex home in your collection. So with that being said, thanks so much for watching, guys. And if this video is encouraging you, if you are debating if you should buy it or not, I hope this video helped you. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.